safety, put that back on the calendar. But again, we are in shifting sands is sort of the catchphrase of the day. We are all going to have to just be flexible, but we're going to right now put that calendar back as it was.
And I know, a lot of people have plans for spring break and they're looking to go back to normalcy, and I hope and pray that we're all at a time where people can go on their vacations by then. I'm not sure that we will be, but we're moving spring break back just in case that is the case. So with no other comments, we'll go ahead and move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by a show of hands. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Before we take the next action, I'm going to turn to the superintendent to introduce this item and to make a recommendation to the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, board members. These are indeed uncharted waters that we're currently in. Before we begin tonight, I would like to take a moment to let you know that staff has been working non-stop since last week to help us prepare for what we are now about to share with you tonight. I will tell you that there have been countless conference calls and meetings, and the team, part of whom are here today, but certainly don't represent the entire team. The team has worked and we have pushed ourselves to develop what we believe will be something that will serve us well during this time. So tonight the team will share with you some very high-level concepts of how we plan to deliver learning opportunities for students. I will also like to share later our meal plan for providing food for students, and then also how we plan to keep the day-to-day operations moving forward where possible. So I'm recommending that the board approve our distance learning plan and also the remote and alternative work plan for employees. And so tonight I am happy to be joined by Dr. Matt Hayes, Mr. Brian Kingsley, and Ms. Christine Pajot. Before they start, I want to share with you some other developments that I believe are important for each of you all to know. The CMS Foundation is establishing the COVID-19 Relief Fund to help address the needs of CMS students and families while schools are closed to students. These funds that will be raised through the COVID-19 Relief Fund will be used to support critical needs and help extend learning to students during this period. In addition to standing up these feeding sites for children in the community beginning tomorrow, we are working with partners to devise a plan to deliver meals to families if they are unable to come to the sites, because we want to ensure that all of our students who need a meal will be able to receive one. With that, I would like to call on Brian Kingsley, our Chief Academic Officer, to talk about how we plan to deliver instruction, learning opportunities to students.
Thank you, Superintendent Winston. Beginning this week, our CMS teachers will begin providing supplemental learning opportunities for our students. We want to be clear that these opportunities are supplemental in nature, which means they should not be graded, they should not be required or mandated for completion, but they are opportunities for students to go deeper with learning that has already taken place since the beginning of this school year. We have broken our instructional continuity plan into 5 key parts. The first part is how we expect our staff in our schools remotely to deliver content to our teachers and ultimately to our parents and to our students. In grades kindergarten through 3rd grade, we are working together at the district level to develop content work-based plans that we will push out through our district website, our various social media platforms, and then our school local websites, as well as direct to teacher via email and other modalities based upon the relationships that they have with the children that they serve. In grades 4 through 12, that may look a little bit different based upon the luxury of having a very sophisticated and mature technology infrastructure in our district. We have more Chromebooks in this organization than any other organization in the world, and we are rapidly working together with our faculties to deploy those devices to our students who need them. And we will be working with our teachers, and our teachers will be working directly with our families to push out digital learning opportunities for their students over the next 2.5 weeks until we know more about when we can come back to school. We also know that not everybody will have access, even if they have a device in their home. And even though we are grateful for other partners like Spectrum Media, who is providing free 60 days of internet service to all of our families that are in need, we recognize that there are some environments that we would need and require print resources available to our families. I'm proud to say that at any of the sites that we are offering free meals for our families, there will be print packets for learning for all of our families that are available to attend and pick those up, and we will also make sure that those learning packets are available on our district website as well. So we spoke about content delivery as one of those components. Our mobile devices is another. So obviously we are going to continue to deploy those. Having access to free Wi-Fi is incredibly important, so we're asking all of our families in the event that they need additional supports and resources to please continue communicating with their school via their teacher and or their school principal. And a part of the expectation of our instructional continuity plan is to have weekly check-ins with our students to ensure that we're not just thinking about academics, but we know that this is a dramatic and traumatic time for all of us as a community. We want to make sure that we're checking in on who they are as human beings, to make sure that we're continuing to check in with them, to provide them all of the social emotional supports that may be necessary to encourage them to get through this time, and we'll do that together. There is a plethora of digital resources. The fourth component of our plan is resources. There's a plethora of digital resources that are available to all of our teachers. We are providing access to all of those resources. Again, not access, they already have access. We are curating and organizing those resources to make sure that our teachers know where they are in a one-stop shop. We are publishing a district new website for our school principals and our teachers tomorrow that will provide them all access to not just where these resources live, but how to use them. We know that some teachers use more digital curriculum more than others. We want to use this as an opportunity to lean in and learn about our teaching and learning and try new things. And we're going to have an opportunity to do that. We are going to publish all of those resources for our families as well and put together video opportunities for parents to be able to be engaged and know what's available to their students. So our resources are incredibly important. And the last piece, and I say it last because I think it's of the utmost importance, is support. The only way that we're going to get through this and continue to provide high engaging academic opportunities for our students that are supplemental in nature is for us to support one another. Tomorrow morning we have a district leadership meeting where we will go over the depths and all of the details of all of these plans with our school principals. We have ongoing 24/7 supports that are available to our teachers to access these digital resources. We are setting up a help desk and extending the hours of our help desk and having virtual office hours for teachers that not just need help on the technology, but help on the actual instructional aspect of integrating their lessons and ideas into this technology. We're going to have new supports available to all of our teachers in the district as well. Look forward to new supports being published on our social media platforms as well as our district website that outline for parents, one, what the resources are that are available, how to get connected, how to ask questions, and all of those things will be available in a multitude of languages to ensure that all of our families in the community have access. And most importantly, we want to ensure that all of our students continue to have direct support, not just by their teacher and their school leadership, but by us as a community. And so some of the things that we will continue to be looking out for are also some of the ongoing crisis supports that we provide each and every day across our district in our schools. Those will continue to be available to our students throughout this time while we are out of school. And we will also be providing specific guidance to ensure that conversations that may be confidential in nature between guidance school counselors and students continue to remain confidential in nature to continue to ensure that we can provide them the direct access to the supports that are needed. We are very proud of this plan. There are a lot of people that have been working around the clock to put this together on behalf of our teachers. They deserve that support, so do our families and our students. And I really believe it's going to be a national model, not just for the supports that we provide, but it's also helping us try to identify a silver lining in this crisis scenario where we have an opportunity to redefine how we do business and learning and teaching and try new things. And that's going to require us to lean in and support one another, and I'm really excited to take that stance of learning under our superintendent's direction, as well as our deputy superintendent of academic services. Thank you.
Should we take questions, or should we do all the reports? Let's go ahead and take some questions.
Yeah, if you don't mind. We discussed it briefly, obviously, before the closed session, but I didn't get to get at the detail level because of time. There was a resource referenced for our English language learners. Can you describe what that is as part of the plan? I mean, is it for the web-based content and different virtual learning? Is it translation? Like, what does that do?
Translation would be one aspect of services to our families to ensure that the parent guidelines and guidance that we are providing to families is available in their home language is incredibly important. But we are asking and trying to identify and encourage our teachers that any supports that they may be providing to English language learners today in their classroom, we want to try to provide those accommodations the best way possible in an opportunity for remote learning. We would also say that should be true for our students with exceptionalities, special needs, as well as our students that are high achieving and ready to be pushed, and we know that that's going to be trying. A lot of our current plans were not, and the goals of those plans were not developed to be functioning in a remote learning environment. So it's forcing us to rethink what accommodations and modifications to our curriculum and to our learning that we can make now, and what do we need to rethink based upon the new scenario that we're in. You're welcome.
Any other questions? I know we have a lot to, oh, there you are. Hi, hiding behind the podium.
Yes, I just want to make sure that we all understand the difference between the supplemental with respect to what they will be covering within this next, at least this next 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for asking me to clarify. We are asking all of our school teachers to look at the next 2 weeks of instruction until we get new guidance from our governor and our Department of Public Instruction to ensure that the learning opportunities that we provide to all of our students over the next 2 weeks are supplemental, which means as we reflect on all of the learning that has taken place since the beginning of the school year until now, we are going to reflect on that and continue to go deeper on that learning. This is not an opportunity in the next 2 weeks to introduce new learning, new core instruction as we would any typical day. We want to make sure that we use these next 2 weeks as we're awaiting guidance on seat time, awaiting guidance on future remote learning criteria to ensure that how we're engaging that environment, as well as ensuring that we can provide all of the necessary accommodations and modifications that are required of us by law. We want to ensure that these next 2 weeks are supplemental in nature and they are learning opportunities that students can engage in and stay connected to their work, as well as connected to the social emotional needs of both themselves and their family at this time.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And I want to emphasize, before I go to you, Mr. Strain, that when you say awaiting guidance, that's a big part of what I know our teachers, our parents, students have been awaiting guidance, our parents, our teachers have been awaiting guidance, and we have too. And so we sort of, at this point, we're reinventing how we do public education right now. And we did get guidance, we got some guidance from the governor to close schools for students for instructional time on Saturday. It was so good to get that guidance. And basically what we've heard is there's more guidance to come. So we're kind of working, putting together what we can while awaiting more guidance. So Mr. Strain.
So first of all, Mr. Kingsley, this is a phenomenal piece of work that you and the team have put together. Really appreciate all the work that you've put into it. It's absolutely top shelf, top notch work. In terms of supplemental, just to put a finer point on it, as you can imagine, I've got a couple of questions in the house, and I'm sure from 148,000 other directions, right? But to put a finer point on it, if there were homework assignments that were meant to be turned in, say this week, what's the expectation, right? In terms of, just absolutely to look at it as we've got outstanding work that's based on instruction that's already taken place and curriculum that's already taken place to bring that forward. And then my understanding is then, let's take our high schoolers, for example. They're within striking distance of midterms, right? And we're saying, look, we're not continuing to advance the curriculum toward the midterms with an expectation that somehow we teach that and the midterms will be taken in the time frame that was expected. We're effectively using this time to enrich and supplement the curriculum that's been taught. And we'll get to how to advance the curriculum at some point in the not too distant future.
Yeah.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Do you want to?
Yes, sir. And I just want to make sure that everyone understands that our learning community superintendents, they basically look over all of our schools throughout the districts, have created a plan that basically is not just for one learning community, but for all learning communities and all schools across the district that they've agreed upon today. It includes various aspects of that, closing out this quarter, midterms, those type of things that would take place. One of the things that we're going to be asking for all of our teachers to do is by the end of the day on Thursday, that they have all of their grades entered from anything that was previous to or stopped. So basically, we expect by Thursday that anything that should be entered will have taken place, so our students know exactly where they stand in that course at the time in which they left. So we'll make sure that's taken care of.
So just be clear, that's tests and any work that has been turned in as of last Friday. What about assignments that were outstanding that were to be turned in this week, for example? What's the status of that?
Right,
What's our expectations of our students there?
Sure, that's an excellent question, and what we'll do is basically make sure that we, when we address that we address it with all of our learning communities, with all schools equitably, so everyone's on the same page, so we'll look that up. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, appreciate it.
And I saw Ms. Schiff.
Right. I just wanted to be, when you say the word supplemental, and you've done a great job with this, and I clearly understand.
Teamwork.
Being a formal educated principal. Making sure we understand what supplemental and extended learning, because supplemental means to add something additional to the learning. Where extending the learning means we've already taught you something and we're going to continue to extend it in the same direction we're already going. So I think it's clear that we make sure teachers and students know, because we do supplemental lessons in school and we extend the learning on material that's already been learned. So we're talking about material that's already been taught, that they already know, and we're going to continue to extend that. We're not adding something new. Now, I don't know if we're even doing enrichment. We're extending what's already been taught and giving you even more to make sure that learning maybe is at mastery level if it wasn't. So help me make sure we understand that supplemental and extended learning.
And before you answer, I just got a message. So we're, like with everything kind of flying by the seat of our pants with our technology tonight. And we don't have our normal technology because we're meeting after hours. And I got a message that we all need to speak more loudly in order for the audio to pick up. So, with that.
Yeah, so
I
what,
heard it from
Oh, no, but apparently they all heard me.
I think you did a great job, Ms. Schiff, in terms of describing that. What we are, to be more specific on my part, we are asking teachers to not introduce new material at this time. I think that's really important. But to all of our students and or parents that are listening, I don't want you to think about this as that we are just going to give you more work and more work and more work. We are providing our schools guidance on some specific amounts of work. We know that this is a trying time for all of our families, for all of our students, but we want to ensure that we are providing not just safe environments for our students during this time and our employees, but also a very productive learning environment. So there'll be more guidance that comes out tomorrow after our principal meeting. You're very welcome.
Ms. Chief?
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Looking at the depth of what we did, it definitely is a myth buster to those who are out in the community saying that we did nothing until today. And so I want to acknowledge that and know that this program has been in the works. Pretty much since the talk of the virus spreading into the United States has been in the works. I'm also going to acknowledge something that Ms. Dashu just said, that the guidance we're getting from the state. That's not one single call that just came in on Friday or on Saturday or Sunday. There's been continuous, nonstop communication between the governor's office, the Department of Public Instruction, the state school board, and state school board members, between our staff, the board leadership, our executive team, the people that are delivering programs to students. And there's a big misconception in this community that all that has been happening. So I want to thank all of you. I don't think any of you all have gotten a lot of sleep. I know our board chair finally got to the grocery store yesterday, but I think that I appreciate you, and I mostly also appreciate your families, because if you did not have some great support at home, you would not have been able to give to the rest of your family, which is the 148,000 children that you have under your wing. And so I just want to say thank you for that. It's a very trying time, and I keep telling people this is unprecedented. We're in uncharted waters without an oar half the time, and we're all trying to do our best. So the patience level of the community, I wish it would sometimes take a deep breath before they decide to post something on social media, or take a deep breath before they decide to make a criticism, and just let's all try to figure out a way to work together. I said something today, and my hashtag was, we're better together. And we are better together as a community, and we're going to come together tomorrow morning and start feeding kids. One day out of school, and then we're already enrolling that program. One day out of school, and we've already got remote learning happening. And yes, this is a speech and a preach right here, folks, but I just want to say there's a lot that has gone into this. It's not knee-jerk. It was well thought out, and it was with great leadership on many levels. And so I say thank you. I'm anxious having a student in the schools that's in higher classes. He probably doesn't need to go deeper where he is. He needs to go forward, because we're going to be graduating and moving on to college soon. And so I worry a little bit about those kids. I worry about every child, but I'm just going to take a deep breath, and he and I are going to have some fun the next 10 days. And then we're going to see where this goes, because every day, if you guys look at what we've been through the last 10 days, we would have never imagined last Monday we are where we are here tonight. We would never imagine that we weren't starting the NCAA basketball tournament right now. So there's so much that has changed so rapidly. So, but I appreciate everything, and I ask our teachers just to be, I hate to tell them to stay tuned, but there's more information coming to them tonight.
Mr. Schul.
First of all, I just want to say I can tell a lot of work has gone into this. But as a student, I think what I'm missing is an extraordinary lack of specifics on a lot of this stuff. So I'm just going to go down quite a few questions that I have. We'll just break it apart. So
and before you do, just know that there's a lot more to come.
Yeah, I'm
There's
sure,
a lot
just
more
based
to
off
come.
just the last thing I heard.
Yeah.
So the first question is, like, are students attending class? Are they logging in? What are these platforms looking like?
They're supplemental learning opportunities. So for students of your age, high school age students, we will be leveraging multiple technology platforms, primarily Canvas is a digital platform that's available to all of our teachers in this district and all of our students. Some teachers are using it more than others. It's not been a district mandate. So during this time, we're also providing a lot of professional development to our teachers on how to move their instruction to an online learning environment. So as an optional learning opportunity, students can receive it via technology and or through print resources that are available via direct from their teacher.
So just to be clear, there's an option for kids to not log in and not attend any of these online sessions.
During this time, we're awaiting further guidance from the state. I think you're asking a really important and very fair question, so I want to say thank you. During this time, we are provisioning supplemental learning opportunities. So yes, they are not mandated for students at this time.
Okay, so will these sessions just be like recorded on Canvas then, and then there for students to access?
There are various ways to do this. There are synchronous ways where a teacher can be live and interacting with their classroom as a whole. There are also asynchronous learning opportunities where teachers can create possible activities and or lessons for you as a possible student to engage in at your availability. We are trying to provide both, as well as other print resources for students to participate in.
Okay, so then considering that this is all supplemental and there's no grades, correct? Then what happens to like our third quarter grades? Are they just gonna stop?
As of right now, yes.
Okay.
Yes, as of right now. That is one of the reasons why Dr. Hayes brought up that we want to ensure that we concretize all of the grades that have been asked and have been collected this week to ensure we don't lose any of that a month from now when we're trying to come back. But we also recognize, based upon anything that may have been issued late last week, that we're gonna also need to provide some maximum flexibility to our students working through that.
And that is one of those, I'm really glad you're asking a question that 148,000 people, students are going to be wondering about. So what the governor's executive order told us is basically for these 2 weeks, this is not school moving forward. This is a pause, but while you're paused, you're not wasting your time, you're supplementing your education, you're enriching what you've already built upon, what you've already learned this year, but we don't have that guidance from the state yet to move forward.
Okay, so then my next question would be like, assuming this is like a prolonged crisis and would be longer than 2 weeks, would this plan be extrapolated or would a new one be drafted?
We need to wait for the guidance, to be honest with you. It would be my sincere hope that we move back to create a sense of normalcy in a digital environment in the event that we're going to continue in a remote learning stance and a remote instructional stance for a long period of time. But it is not in my place. It's not my place to be able to tell you what that's going to be. I really need to wait for guidance from our Department of Public Instruction as well as our superintendent and board.
Okay. Next, can we like break apart like the rationale for only doing supplemental learning? So like, what happens when like kids go into their next year of school with 2 weeks of additional learning missing, or when students are going to AP exams missing 2 weeks of learning? Why are we like concentrating on supplemental rather than expanding on possibilities?
There are various reasons. A couple that I tried to reference earlier. I think that we need to identify and learn what happens over the next 2 weeks in terms of the types of modifications and accommodations we can provide to our students with exceptionalities, our English language learners, all students, to be honest with you, right? We recognize that all students need some form of support, and we need to make sure that our instructional staff are being supported with being in an environment that is instructional in nature, that they have the tools to be able to provide those supports. We as a system have not mandated, nor should we have, to push all of our teachers into a digital learning environment and or a remote learning environment, and we have almost 10,000 teachers across the district. And so it would not be fair to any of our students and or our teachers to push that in directly into that environment right away. We have some schools that are ready for that right now, and some that are needing a lot of extra supports, and that's okay. But that is one of the reasons why we didn't go there immediately, based upon our level of readiness and also needing guidance from our Department of Public Instruction at the state level.
Ms. De La Parra, did you have another question?
Yeah, just another quick question.
And speak up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. I know that a lot of our families rely on our community partners for extra support. And I'm just wondering, will there be a time, or maybe we already have, is it appropriate for us to share this information with them so that they can somehow help to guide, to support our efforts, even if it's over the phone? If certain children feel more comfortable talking with their social worker who's an outside employee over the phone, or certainly our English language learners, for example, we have community partners that if they knew how to guide them through this in a way that maybe their families for whatever reason can't, that we can support them to help support our students?
Well, fair question. I think we're working at a lightning pace right now, and what we are recognizing is that we have a comprehensive communications plan ahead of us every single day. And we're with you in the community this evening. We're speaking with our principals tomorrow. We have already had preliminary conversations with a lot of our external partners, Reed Charlotte being one of them, who has been curating external resources to provision to families and direct to students. And we are going to be linking our internal assets to theirs to make sure that we're working together and not creating duplicative learning environments for our families and our students. So that is beginning, but there's still a long ways to go.
Right, and fair enough. I mean, again, excellent job, so thank you.
Thank you.
No, well said. Thank you.
Ms. Sawyer?
I just wanted to make a comment. First of all, thank you for the tremendous work that you've all done. Thank you for the tremendous work you've all done, and I just want to say that I think this 2 weeks gives us an opportunity without the pressure of needing to move curriculum forward to get everybody accommodated to the platform and allow some experimentation and to kind of work out the bugs for 2 weeks and see, oh, we need to focus on this, we need to provide more support for that before if we end up having to go to an all virtual education in the coming weeks, we'll have had 2 weeks to kind of debug. And I think that's a great opportunity for us and for our families and students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that actually exactly echoes what I have heard from the state, from counterparts on the State Board of Education, is this is 2 weeks for districts to figure this out, let us know what's working, identify hurdles, and then we'll see what happens next.
This is a real
Jason.
small one. Since we are in this period, and you just explained the pause that we're in right now, we can anticipate after the pause that we will most likely be in a home-based situation based on some of the information coming out today for potentially another 3 to 4 weeks after that even. Who knows? Could be a day. We could all be hopeful and say that. But should we get guidance in the meantime, before the end of this 2-week period, how quickly could we roll to the next step from whatever this is called, supplemental to enrichment, to moving forward? How do we, where would our, timeline, I mean, you guys have jumped pretty quickly through this big hoop. But I just wonder, how nimble would we be to switch from the supplemental to enrichment? Should we get guidance on Monday that says we're gonna stay out another 4 weeks? Go ahead and move into enrichment.
So, I think that's really what this week's being used for, and over the next little bit. We have our learning community superintendents that are reaching out to all of our principals, connecting with them on a daily basis, making sure that their resources they have, and also, they're also being able to influence, to lift up things to us that may be opportunities for students, and then also to help guide for that work. I will say that with what I've seen from the platform, with the learning and teaching and what they put together, which is phenomenal, folks. It's just amazing what our in-house individuals have done for us, and it's phenomenal for our kids. And I have 2 students that will benefit from that, and I greatly appreciate their hard work for that. But I do believe that once we get to that point, if we're given clear guidance on how to do that, the team will be able to move on that with ease.
All right, then the next little piece of that is, the dilemma that we're in right now is we've been told this is a pause. So that means we don't, and just, this is more for people that aren't here. That means we're not sure what this means of if they might extend the school year into June. That we don't know if these days are gonna count or how they'll count. We don't know if they're gonna say you have to go in that. So we're still in the we don't know so much phase with what we're getting from the state. Isn't that correct? I mean, we haven't gotten really any guidance yet about that.
Yeah, we hope, I think, that these days
They count.
will be count, and
Towards
that we
our
won't
days.
be going to school all summer long, but we don't know that for sure yet.
Yeah. So we're still in the I don't know phase a lot.
The only thing that I would add to that is that a lot of, and I have a great appreciation for the questions that are being raised tonight. As I talk to colleagues across the state and the region, they're raising the same questions. They're raising the same questions. So what we're discussing and the questions and comments that are coming up, they're not unique to Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. We're grappling with this across the state.
From all of our mouths to the governor's ears. That's what I would say.
Dr. Jones?
I was asking to be called on because I don't think our student board member, Mr. Schul, had the opportunity to finish his questions. And I think the student questions are very important because he's more aligned with what they need or what they want to know. So did you get your questions?
Yeah, still some questions.
Okay.
The next thing I was gonna go into was access. So you mentioned that we're gonna communicate with schools to get free Wi-Fi. Can you elaborate on that? How are we ensuring free Wi-Fi?
So we've asked our school leaders to survey their student body to identify who is in need of a device, who is in need of access to Wi-Fi, internet at home. Oh, I'm sorry. We have asked our school leaders to survey their student body to attain information on what students have or may need a digital device, mobile device to access internet. We also understand that the device doesn't necessarily lead to internet access. And so we're trying to make sure that we know that to either put them in touch with a third-party provider, as I referenced Spectrum, as an opportunity. And we've also already distributed over 10,000 hotspots to our high school students over the last 3 years to help. And we survey our high school students every year to ensure that they have access to hotspots if they need internet access at home. And so we are revisiting that as well. We have we have many of those that are still available, not enough for every student across the district. That's why we are so grateful for partners like Spectrum and other media partners that have stepped up to the plate to provision.
So this survey to see if kids need online support, will the survey be online?
No, so that's,
Yeah.
right, so that's, thank you, that's an excellent point. That's what we're expecting right now is for our teachers to have close to 2 to 3. We would preferably like to have at least 3 contacts with each of the students. For you in high school, it would basically be through your homeroom teacher, just to check in to say, how's everything going by phone, not via email, and checking in and saying, how's everything going? For some reason, if a device isn't working any longer, how do we get a new device in that child's hands? If there is, if students are needing to have access to food, we want to make sure that they know where one of our feeding sites are. So we're looking at all options for that. Some of those options might be Brian and I taking some devices and getting on a big yellow bus and traveling around Charlotte. So nothing's off the table when it comes to providing the resources that our students need to be successful during this time period.
Okay, yeah, that was going to lead into my next question, which was, seeing as like smartphones are much more widely available than computers are, were all of these online resources going to be accessible via your mobile device as well?
So it's interesting you say that, because I was actually looking at many of those resources on my cell phone before I came in here. So
Okay.
yes, sir, they will be able to pull those up on their cell phones as well.
Okay. And then the next thing was going to be about this like curating resources for teachers thing. So where will these resources for teachers be? How accessible will they be? If I'm a teacher right now, what am I thinking? How do I get these resources?
So PowerPoint that we have, and I just have a rough draft of it that's right here. Basically, this PowerPoint is sort of the holy grail to everything that's going to be pushed out. And we actually will have a copy of this. Will be front facing to our public. That will be on our website that they can access. Inside here, you will find links that we don't want our parents and our students and our teachers to have to go to 5 or 6 different places. We want you to make one click and it takes you right there. So these are hot links that are embedded inside this PowerPoint. So for example, if you're over by Chick-fil-A at Blakeney and somebody says they don't have the resources or something they need and they want to find out how to connect into that, you can say, here's the PowerPoint, share it. They can click on that and go straight to it.
Okay, is the PowerPoint adapted by subject matter? Like if I'm a social studies teacher, is there a different link versus a math teacher?
No.
For where
Sorry.
no, you're fine.
Yep.
No. So the PowerPoint doesn't have specific slides by content area, but how we have curated and organized the digital resources across grade bands is organized by grade level and subject area.
Okay.
I just want to point out that we still have a lot to get through as far as what our employees need to hear. This is all student focused. We also have our employee focus. So do you, we might be able to follow up with the rest of your questions, but do you have 1 or 2 more burning questions,
Okay, that's fine.
Mr. Schul?
Move on.
Okay. And Ms. Marshall, you have one more?
Just a quick comment. We saw a preliminary, just a quick look at some of the things that are going to be offered tomorrow. And I think that it's really important for people to remember that K-12 virtual instruction for an entire system, these things have never happened before on such a large scale. I think particularly for elementary students. So there is a lot going on, but this plan, I think, will help students as much emotionally as it will academically. Because we know kids need some organization in their day, and we know that our students are experiencing a lot of anxiety. So I'm hopeful that parents really do look at this as a way to give structure, to give support, and then there are ways for you to reach out as a parent to get support from our staff that is so well suited for this back. So I think this can fill 2 very important needs in our community, and I just want to make sure that while we understand that this is supplemental now, I think it's of utmost importance that people really do take this seriously. This is an important time.
Ms. Marshall, just to piggyback on that, just to all of our families that are out there and community members, if you have not updated your information in our district with emails or cell phones that are working right now, or if you change services and so forth, please take this as an opportunity to reach out to your school, go online, make those changes, because that's where a lot of our communication is going to go through. And if that has not been updated at this point in time, it's really hard for us to get in touch with you. So we'd also ask for our media outlets to please push that as well, that our parents have that opportunity. It's there. Please make those updates so we can make sure that should not be at any point in time what keeps our students from having an opportunity to participate in this process. So thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, thank you for your questions. At the end of the day, we serve the students, so thank you.
Yep, that's where it is.
At this time, Madam Chair, I'd like to call on Ms. Christine Peugeot to talk more about our remote and alternative work plan proposed for employees.
Thank you, and good evening. Clearly, the safety of our staff continues to be a top priority, and it goes without saying what we're hearing in the media and from local, regional, and national officials that the idea is to continue to promote social distancing, to limit gatherings of large amounts of people, and to encourage remote work where possible. To that end, we are positioned at CMS to transition to remote work effective immediately and to have that effectuated no later than close of business tomorrow. Fortunately, we are able to do this with most of our positions successfully across the district, in that those positions can be successfully performed in a remote capacity. Some positions, typically as currently slated, are not able to perform their work remotely. For that reason, we are currently exploring alternative work opportunities for those groups of employees so that we can keep all of those employees working and continuing business. I'd like to say business as usual. Certainly it's not going to be as usual. I mean, if they're different times, this is going.
Speaking of, it's 9 o'clock.
Do we have a special code?
No.
Stay in a stranger.
Oh, guys, get the curve back on.
Hilarious. All right. We are definitely in uncharted territory here.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to start crinkling the wrappers now.
That'll be how we find each other. We'll all crinkle around.
I promise I everything.
We'll do our part, right?
There you go. Who has a candle?
Did we know that they were going to clean the lights up?
No, we did not. We're calling downstairs right now, Madam Chair.
We could be like the concert. When you
I don't even need to know.
You good?
At 9 o'clock,
They'll be back on momentarily.
Wow, all kinds of stuff is
The poltergeist.
I'll look for a light switch, I'm sorry.
This gets more unique every hour, really.
One to remember.
Yes, that was exciting. So we are positioned to transition to remote work with the lights on, hopefully. And to be able to continue in that capacity. And we were saying that things will look different, things will feel different, but I am confident with our leadership and the commitment of our employees that we will be able to successfully pull this off. Again, this will be new. There are going to be challenges that we face with that, but in order to support our employees, what we've done a few things. We've compiled a list of guidelines that are going to be shared with all staff who are expected to work remotely. That is going to be shared with them to describe things like what core hours mean, what the expectations are going to be, how they can help manage working in that environment. Also, for example, things like leave policies will still apply. So even if you're working in a remote capacity from home, if you'd like to take vacation, if you get sick and you need to take time off from work, then you would take your applicable sick leave to do that. It's also important to note that for our non-exempt employees, we're going to be providing timesheets so that they can accurately record their time to make sure that we have that. We're going to be sharing resources with leaders and employees on things like how to successfully collaborate in a virtual environment. So Zoom meetings, for example, is one resource that has now been made available for unlimited use by K-12 staff. So that's going to be very helpful for us to continue to engage in virtual meetings that are even face-to-face using devices. Now, we're saying that we're doing this effective immediately, no later than close of business day tomorrow, so that we can allow staff the appropriate time needed to, for example, provision devices. Make sure that they've even collected their personal belongings that they're not comfortable with leaving on site for this period of closure of our facilities. And in terms of people working on site, we're going to limit that type of activity to work that really needs to be done for mission critical and things that we've committed to in terms of the community, things like meal continuity and things of that nature. So that basically summarizes our remote work plan. We're ready to take this on. We're ready to move forward. And again, I'm confident that we'll be able to make this work.
Thank you so much. I am so pleased to hear this evening about your plans both for alternative work and remote work. And it's really just a reflection of what's going on in many facets of our society right now. My husband today was told his job just changed and he's full hands on deck for HR in the short run. You know, alternative work, it's not his regular job description. So, but for some people, they will be asked in many aspects of our society to alternate their work. And so I'm glad that we have a plan to do just that for the positions that we're able to do that. I'm super thrilled that we are offering immediately, if it works with their schedule for tomorrow, that's what I'm understanding, for our teachers in particular, and I know there are many others that I won't mention right now, to be able to work remotely. Can you confirm that? And I know that I know that our teachers are professionals and they know how to get their work done. And I'm just thrilled that we're moving in that direction. Can you confirm that?
Absolutely,
Okay.
and that is correct. And for example, we are a large district, so there are some schools that are ahead of the curve in terms of being able to be in a position to provision devices, while there are some schools that still have some work to do in that area, not because they were lagging behind for any particular reason, but there's unique requirements and nature of work when it comes to elementary students versus high school students that might be quickly already equipped and ready to go. So by providing till tomorrow, end of day, that gives that staff and administrators the ability to make sure that we are fully prepared to execute successfully once we are fully transitioned to remote work. So if employees have already gotten what they need to be able to be successful in that end, then they are more than welcome to start working remotely tomorrow. Obviously, that's going to require discussions with the supervisor because that's different site by site, perhaps even section by section. I know we have divisions at the central office that, or departments that have multiple divisions. Some of those divisions are ready to go. Others still have to be provisioned for things like VPN on their computers so they can successfully do their jobs from home.
Anyone else? Mr. Schul?
So just to be clear, if teachers don't show up tomorrow because they opt for remote learning, as in they don't decide to go get like any personal belongings, anything like that, do they take a compensation day?
The teachers would remain in a paid status. I mean,
Okay.
The remote work and the distance learning and the planning for that is expected to continue. So tomorrow, we would anticipate that that day is really dedicated to making sure that all employees are geared up for that. But if somebody is already set and ready to go and they do not report physically into work, that would not impact their pay in any way.
Okay. Can you elaborate maybe a little bit on paid leave if a teacher does become sick with this virus or has to care for a child who is sick or just has to care for a child who is out of school? What was happening?
So generally speaking, regular leave policies would apply. I mean, we all are granted as employees sick leave for that very reason. If we were to get sick, then we're required to use our leave for those purposes. There are particular provisions under particular regulations with respect to closures having to do, or closures that are ordered by a health official. So for example, if an employee is ordered to be isolated or quarantined as a result of the virus, then that employee would remain in paid status and their leave balance would not be impacted. But absent that scenario, employees would be expected to use their own accrued leave to cover such absences.
Mr. Strain?
So, thanks, Christine. We talked a fair bit about the devices and connectivity for students. Presumably, those same options are available for staff if we're moving staff to remote working status. Same sort of process. I'm wondering how they go about getting connectivity if necessary. I know that we've got programs with partners that provide the Wi-Fi hotspots. Spectrum obviously has rolled out this great program as well, supporting K-12 education in terms of connectivity. If folks don't have it, what are we doing for devices for remote working for staff if they don't already have those devices?
So we wanted to get out ahead of that issue. So in fact, last week we began asking our managers, particularly our executive directors, down to start surveying staff to identify what those needs may be. There are options depending upon the type of work available, where if an employee does not already have a laptop, for example, and they just have desktops, we have plenty of Chromebooks on hand that can be distributed to staff for that reason. There are some staff that would have to have access to things like VPN to be able to log in directly into our network for HR payroll things. But for example, all the employees currently in HR are already equipped with laptops, so that wasn't an issue, except for making sure that we took the time over today and tomorrow to be able to provision those laptops appropriately so that the work can be done.
Right. Okay.
So, and you said something perfect about like our payroll, and knowing that the principal and the school executive secretary have to look at that. Are they gonna be able to do that remotely? Have they already gotten that set up? Or will they have to come in? Because I know that is critical, being able to meet those Monday payroll deadlines.
Absolutely. At the school level and at the department level, in terms of entering time, yes, all of that can be done by a laptop with VPN access. And again, we've asked all of those department heads to identify employees who need that access in order to perform their work if they don't already have it. In terms of actually physically coming in periodically for the finance side of payroll processing or other accounts payable reasons, the plan is those department leaders are going to work with their teams to limit the amount of employees who are coming in at any given time, and then to perhaps even rotate the personnel who are coming in to take care of those necessary duties that will require a physical presence to be done.
Ms. G.
So will there be any school-based personnel left deployed out in the buildings during this period? Will the schools be empty, number one? Will the schools be deep cleaned, and do we have a plan with our janitorial staff to do those type of things while we have this extra space when the schools are empty? There's a lot more they can do when there's not kids around.
As to the question regarding cleaning, I would respectfully have to defer to my colleagues in the operations side of the house, but I can tell you that while we have asked the public not to visit our building, staff will be, as necessary, present for certain core functions. I mean, one good example is the meal continuity program and serving students and keeping up with that program and our commitment to the community.
I just didn't know, there are students trying to get transcripts and different things like that. There's a lot going on. You know, unfortunately, they can't just stop where they are in their process for a lot of those things. The colleges are still asking for things to be done, and so I didn't know if any of that kind of services might be available.
Understood. I mean, I think all of us will expect that the same exact level of service just won't be available, especially during this immediate time as we're evaluating how things are going to look and whether or not the situation is extended. So some services that would be considered ancillary may not be available to the same extent. Pretty much what we want to do is to continue to promote the guidance that we've received from the CDC, local, state, national officials, to really limit the amount of people who are coming into the buildings unless the work is absolutely necessary and needs to be done physically in the buildings.
Anybody else? Oh, okay.
This kind of overlaps with the last presentation. But the thing about like one-on-one, like weekly check-ins, right, with teachers. So to my knowledge, Canvas doesn't have like an option for like a FaceTime-esque sort of version. So how are these check-ins happening? Like how are counselors talking with students? Like how is this happening?
So that's a great question. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way. So I know a lot of our plan is based on technology, being able to provision that. But we'll utilize old-fashioned way. We will do it via phone calls. There'll be opportunities to receive emails, from the teachers. And so we'll utilize everything that we have at our disposal, but we want to make sure that that contact occurs.
But there's also a fantastic opportunity that Zoom has provided as well, right? So I think we use GoToMeeting as well. So GoToMeeting and Zoom all, well known, at least in terms of, many industries anyway. I live on Zoom and GoToMeeting and Skype and you name it. And so from that perspective, I think this is going to be new for some of our folks in terms of some of the virtual, but you said FaceTime-esque, that's what all those technologies are. And so there's certainly opportunities to explore and exploit those as well.
Google Hangouts is another popular one. That is free. Yes.
Well, there is a lot more to learn, and I don't know that we're going to be able to flush out all the details tonight, but thank you, staff, for how hard you've worked. And it's kind of a miracle what you've pulled off, and I'm sure that we're gonna have a lot of bumps in the road, so I wanna set that expectation too, because we really are inventing something new here under pressure. But I will bet that a lot of other districts are going to be learning from us, and I'm sure that we'll be learning from other districts too. That's the time that we're in right now. So with that, I'm going to turn to Board Member Lenora Shipp to make a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the recommendations for distance learning for CMS students and alternative work options for CMS staff as presented by the superintendent.
Second. All right, any more discussion before we vote? All right, I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor of Ms. Shipp's motion, let it be known by a show of hands. Do we have any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. And before we adjourn, I just want to thank everybody for scrambling to get here for another emergency meeting. Our regular board meetings, for the time being, will continue as scheduled. They may look different, they may operate differently, but we will abide by our open meeting laws. The work of the board, the business of the board continues. Even in a crisis, we can't stop our work. And in addition, we have a lot of hearings scheduled, and those will continue. So more details later. I'm assuming they'll be in this building. If not, we'll figure something out. But I just wanted to share that as well. And I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, let it be known by a show of hands. And any opposed? Adjourned. Thank you.
The novel coronavirus and our work to ensure the safety of our city